Verse section kind of reminds me of some of the production that I'd hear from the Weeknd. The chorus is a little bit more summery. I have some cool perk loops going on, strings, a bunch of different sounds to break down today. And I think there's going to be a lot to take away from it. If you guys like what you hear, you can follow me on Instagram over at GavinHadley_. Check out my BeatStars, Gavin Hadley. And without further ado, let's get into it. There are two parts to the beat. There's a chord progression in the verse that is 4 chords, and that also plays in the intro. And there's a second progression that switches between 2 chords, which is the chorus section of the beat. And we're working in the key of G sharp minor at 93 BPM. I have a sound shifter plugin on my master channel that's switching everything that you hear up by 3 notes, but also shifts all the sonics manually in a clean way to me that doesn't sound robotic, and it just gives it a little bit of overall added character. The first layer in the chorus is this piano. It's switching between 2 chords, and you can pretend that the second 4 bars over here on the right just don't exist. I was experimenting with adding 2 other chords, but I just like the way that the first 2 sounded together. We have a C sharp major chord here, and then a C minor chord, with the 5th up an octave over here, this top note, the G sharp, and then over here we have the top note again, with the 5th up an octave as well. And then for effects on that, this is what it sounds like on its own. The first plugin I have is the sound shifter, just pitching it up an octave. Then I mix back the mix knob here, RC20, sort of distorting it a little bit, bringing it out a little bit more. This EQ, taking out some of the low end, and then a tape delay. After that, I have a mellotron, just switching back and forth between 2 intervals. I've been using the spring reverb plugin from Arteria for a while. It just gives it like a cool, raw, sort of organic, distorted, not distorted, it's like compressed reverb sound. I like it a lot. After that, I have this pluck lead. This is what it sounds like without effects. First thing I put on it was the sound shifter, just pitching it up an octave again, and then mixing back the mix knob over here on the right. Second plugin is Archetype Tim Henson, the guitar amp. And I like using guitar amps for a bunch of things, not just guitars. For this case, it gave it a bunch of cool distortion. The preset is called OD in here, and it just brings it out, distorts it a lot more. So again, this is what it sounds like before. And then with. I knew I wanted to give this beat some cool percussive sounds. The first one comes from Arcade. It's from the Extra Perks Pank. It's called Pix and Mix. The second perk layer is right here. And then I wanted to make sure one of them had a little bit of some melodic notes to it, and I had to pitch it up 3 to get it in key with the rest of the sample. This is what it sounded like before. Really subtle difference. Just sits in the mix a little bit better. Cool little background layer. So after that, I added a few different leads. The first one is this one-shot lead. Sounds like this, string sound. Tim Henson. Another cool part about this plugin is that you have like a multi-voicer tool in here, meaning you can sort of give single notes that you put in your piano roll, added notes on top, sort of stacking them, harmonizing them to a certain key. For this case, I put my root note to F, and then I added this vocoder, fruity stock plugin. Sort of tame it, bring it down a little bit in the mix, and then an RC20 to do the same thing. I have the second one shot. This one is a pretty crazy sound. This is what it sounds like without effects. I'm not even going to show the notes that I was playing because it doesn't matter too much. This is what it sounds like before. What I did is add this delay. There's a lot of distortion going on, and then I used a lot of the digital knob here as well as some of the wobble. And then I also had to use a little bit of gross beat to tame that. I wanted to bring it down a little bit, gross beat halftime, and then a sound shifter, pitching it down an octave, and then mixing it back a little bit in the mix knob again as well, and then an imager to widen it. All of this was sort of done to tame the sound and make it a little bit less abrasive. To fill up some of the really high frequencies in the mix, I have the string sounds from Labs. It's from the tape orchestra bank. And I just sort of stacked 2 chords on top of each other that I liked that were just in the key. I don't think they were the original 2 chords in the progression, but they sort of stack on top and harmonize nice with those 2 chords. And since they're up super high sonically, notes-wise, they aren't going to be clashing with the other chord progression in the bass. And then on arcade, I found this cool brass sound. It sounds like this. Spice it up a little bit, add a little bit of ear candy. I found this vocal sample, and then all I have to do is match it to my BPM, and this is what it sounds like with without effects. So now that I had all those layers built out, it was time to do the drums. Hi-hat just sort of underneath, keeping pace with everything else. And I use this tom sort of sparingly, bouncing back and forth between everything else too. Layer to snare. For bass in the chorus, I use the Spins 808. And I just made it super tight, so whenever I pulled off the notes, it would stop instantly. I used the 808 more sparingly, since I had a bunch of kick drums going. I usually like to separate that. If I'm going to do a bunch of kicks, I'll do less 808 and vice versa. The longer 808, you can sort of let it ring out, and it fills up that space nicely in the mix. Be able to stop it whenever you want it is another cool effect that you guys are going to hear right now. Like stutters right there. And then for the drop, all I did was take a little part of that drum section, put it just a little bit before, and right before it dropped, I just pulled out all my melody layers. It sounds like this. Took out a few layers for the chorus, no more vocal, and a few other things. The verse section of the beat, this was actually the part that I began with. I made the chorus section second. I felt like the beat could benefit from a second progression, as I said earlier, and this is the one that we originally started with. So the first sound here that I'm using is the CS80 synth. It sounds like this. For effects on it, I'm just taking out a little bit of low end. The chords are a C sharp major here with the 5th down an octave. Sort of give the chord a little bit more character and overall definition. I have the root note of the chord down here an octave lower. And I use that technique for the remaining 3 chords of the progression. As you can see, all the root notes very down low in the bass. So the second chord here, it's a minor chord with that G sharp up top, and I like the way that G sharp sort of stays throughout both of the chords. Sounds like this. This third chord wasn't originally voiced like that. Just put the 5th down an octave again. For bass in the verse section, I added a sub bass, sort of pulsing, following our root notes. Sounds like this. That's what it sounds like without any effects. Width of it's just very subtle. A little bit of compression, taking out a little bit of the low lows, the EQs, taking out a little bit of this, just taming it a little bit, and this distortion, sort of compressing it and bringing it a little bit tighter. I found a few notes that I liked to sort of make it counter melodies following just 2 intervals here, and then I just duplicated them up an octave on top of each other. It's from Labs. Just another soft string sound, and I wanted to make it more distorted. I added this RC20. I took out a little bit of our low ends here. This tape delay as well on that. It sounds like this. And if anything, I was sort of directing this verse to sound a little bit more dark and eerie. It's a little bit inspired by some of the Weeknd's production as well. This is the next layer. It's an ARP sound from Analog Labs. It sounds like this. Then I just have this bend sound underneath, just another one-shot sound. A mellotron sound here that's just following one note, super distorted again. Just a C, and then it's a C down an octave over here, and then another C, which is the D sharp down here, another C, D sharp down here. For the second part, I took the sound that I made over in the chorus section, just brought it over here for the second part of the verse. For drums, I kept in our kicks, took out our 808s for that sub, cut out some of our kicks for the beginning of the verse, but then they come in just a bar later. Also took out some of the perk loops that were right here. Added in this nice electric guitar to just sort of sit underneath the chords, and it sounds like this. Those are going to be all of the layers in the beat, if I'm not mistaken. And yeah, that is the beat. I'm going to play it out for you guys at the end so you can hear it in its entirety. Thank you for watching. Comment down below some video suggestions for me. Anything you'd like to see, any tutorials, Q&As, questions, anything, I'm more than happy to answer. I will see you guys in the next video. Have an awesome rest of your day.